non-high-tech way?
I don't remember. That was days ago. Pardon me, Madam Chair.
That's okay.
Shauna Spowers. Chief next point.
Present.
Madam Chair, all are present and we have quorum.
So maybe we can, you see Bill and he can make gestures to us, and that's, oh, I see, yes, there he is. Now he is muted. But we will proceed. Bill, if at any point you want us to stop, just wait and we'll see you. And people on that side of the room will tell me if you see Bill and I. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and we'll look at the agenda. Are there any additions to be made to the agenda?
Thank you. I have two additional items. One is the regional support grant, and the second is the RIDE grant, 2021 RIDE grant. If they can be items, well, the items right after the financial statement. There'll be two B and C, two A, B, and C. Very good.
So I'll ask for a motion to adopt the minutes of March 3rd. Len, Mike, all in favor? Thank you. And now we'll look at 2021 year-end financial statement. Chief Spowers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you would have received a statement in your capital strategy board meeting. As you can see from that statement, we overspent by 1.1, sorry, 1.3%. 1,557. I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Shrimshaw to walk you through these numbers, and then I have a very brief presentation to demonstrate and break down some of these areas for the.
Very good. Mr. Shrimshaw.
Okay, thank you. First, I'll start off by saying that the numbers in front of you are audited at this time. The city's financial audit will begin on Monday for the audit firm. So I don't expect any significant changes. So as Chief Howard mentioned, by 1.3% to 84. So a little breakdown of all the numbers. We look up at the top, there's the salaries and benefits. Those are most significant. They're at 700,000. Chief Howard will speak to that shortly. Purchase of goods came in under budget by 7,000, and service and rents came in over by 45,000. And financials and transfers were over budget by 19,000. Financials and transfers is really just items that are concerned with capital reserves, debt, and other corporate charges that get sent to the department. On the revenue side, the department did provide us with a detailed list of COVID expenses. So the city has received COVID funding from the province, and with the detailed list the department gave us, we deemed that 269,500 would be up to the department. That is primarily cost revenue and additional expenses due to COVID that makes up that 269. On the revenue side as well, federal grants and provincial grants, we received an additional 200. We received an additional 210,000 over budget. So those were grants that the department received throughout the year that were not billed during the budget time, and therefore we didn't budget for them. It also includes a shortfall from port security offset of about $45,000. So in reality, the department received about 250,000 in grants over and above what we had planned. Other municipalities came in right on, but that's expected because they're contracts for dispatch. And fees and services, you'll see that we came in we very small, very hard. Came in very well, but there were other items that were put in through, fees that were not budgeted. So we had a WSIP recovery that came in over budget. But in reality, we lost, so we were short about $100,000 for fingerprint revenue and other revenue sources that are part of that. So they really did kind of compensate out with the WSIP recovery, but WSIP recovery also got salary portion. So that's why we looked at that way. So it looks like it's not budget, but there's just two main variances that causes it not budget. And then contribution from reserves and all of that. And another carry forward from prior years, so it's not budgeted as a revenue source. So in short, the revenue came in at 100% over budget, so that's good news. We got extra grants and we're able to use some of the lost revenues. And then capital came in pretty much off budget. So overall, to summarize, we're at 101 and the shortfall of 284 for the year.
So if I may, I'd like to break that down a little bit further for you, so you have a better understanding of how we land there. If you can move to the next slide for me, please. So, as has been mentioned by Mr. Scrimshaw, the bulk of the overage is in salaries and benefits, 777,946, which represents 104.06%. There's a number of reasons why that has occurred. I've put them on the screen for you. One of the reasons is the payout of accumulated banks for retirees. I mentioned to the board back in November, I believe, that we had a number of employees who had been off for extended periods of time. And as a result of we are required to pay out banks that include vacation, statutory income, etc. The issue here is that to date, we have not been accruing these liabilities. We have not been preparing ourselves for their departure, and they have been unknowns as to when they were likely to move in extended, most cases, extended sick leaves. So we started to see that we were going to have a number of employees, which is a trend that we've really never seen before. It's not my tenure. All in the same year. So that resulted in a payout of $309,408, which was under budget for. The other fee that Mr. Scrimshaw has referenced is this WSIP years assessment, it's called. And the way WSIP works, it's a little bit like insurance, right? So when you use your insurance, premiums go up. And so the board knows we have a number of employees who are off on the WSIP, mostly related to post-traumatic stress or stress work-related injuries and illnesses. And as such, we work with a year's fee of $192,000. Now, again, this is WSIP does not issue these assessments on an annual basis. There have been times where we've gone 3 years without any assessment, and then we'll get one 2 years ago was the last time we had received one, not nearly this amount. And what we're experiencing here is consistent with many other municipalities in the sector. So, how do we address that in the future? It's difficult because we never know what year we're actually going to see. There was word at one point that WSIP was going to reevaluate how they were implementing the structure, but we have not seen any of those changes anymore. The other place we've seen slight increase is in the premiums for benefits, and that was relates to the changes in the collective agreement for the Cornwall Police Association, in that last round of funding, which of course took place during 2021, and so they were costs. We also had overages in part-time salaries, and a few of these long-term sick leaves that I'm referring to actually occurred in terms where we found only part-time. So we're paying the full-time salary, normally they would be offset, but we were paying the full-time salary and then having to cover with part-time. We did run short in areas, so I don't want you to think that just because there was somebody off, we just automatically went to where we could do without, we did. There were areas where we just and overtime is another area where it was over. A lot of that had to do with the COVID expenditures, which were actually offset as John mentioned in the revenue section. So we received $269,000 in revenue from the municipality conference expenses, and part of that was as a result of overtime that was covering these officers off to the COVID exposures. For those who don't know, there is no such thing as part-time policing, and so when you don't have the minimum number required to police on the road, you have to backfill. There were a number of protests related to COVID that one would anticipate, and so it was, that's all covered by additional officers. So that's where that comes from. So we have some sense that we were responsible, and when we talk about being over, it feels like, we were laissez-faire about the way we spend our money. So I wanted to demonstrate for you a comparison between 2020 and 2021, because although we were over in terms of what we had budgeted for part-time salaries, we actually used less part-time than we did in 2020. So we actually managed to reduce it by 11%. And that was as a result of these, situations where we were going. And in terms of overtime, they're actually, in comparison to 2020, we actually were only over by 2% year over year. Now, one of the things that we need to do differently that we haven't done today is when we submit for our annual budget, we have not been increasing that overtime allotment by the salary increases. So as salaries have increased, the overtime has not increased at all. And I can say that that's the case for nearly 10 years. So we're going over, but really the budget appropriately, we should be adjusting that salary every year by whatever the increases are. For instance, to change salary costs of about 2%, which is consistent. A couple of other considerations. As you saw on the first page, under services and grants showed that we were over by $45,497. In actual fact, there is a line item in there that is completely out of the control of the service. It actually sits with the city. I do not put that number in terms of what we should budget for, nor do I have any control over how much is spent in the end. And there was over spent by $53,390. And what I've been told by Mr. Shaw is that this is a citywide issue, and there was overspending across with respect to the total. I think this was a consistent thing. In terms of purchasing of goods, I wanted to demonstrate for you, I said to you at the November meeting that, I had asked people to be very mindful of their expenditures because I could start forecasting. And exactly that. And we were not at 100% of our purchasing goods, and we actually managed to save $70,000. Again, going back to that whole salary line, even though it showed we were $777,000 over, it was actually offset by using a community safety and policing grant that was covering a full disaster salary. So, as you saw in the revenue section, we did very well in our grants. This is not saying salaries. And of course, we are going to talk about expenditures that will move first. So, what do we learn from all of this and how do we move forward? I have had conversations with Mr. Scrimshaw about looking at accruing our liabilities. Let's look at who we have off and who's likely not to return, and start to look at those banks that are accruing, and on an annual basis, put aside those funds so that when the person actually does leave, we don't want to return. And be sure to have something. Quarterly budget reviews. This is something that we were doing, although I have to say that when the city shifted to a new program design, it did make it difficult for us to actually access the budget regularly, so it was difficult at times to track, and I'm sure that. But we need to make sure that we're doing our budget reviews. One of the issues one of the ways I think we can improve is we have a lot of managers, so I'd like to bring in some new training, elevate the skill level of our custom managers so that they I don't see an issue that I think is and that's the extent of our presentation, but I'm happy to take it.
Ben?
Thank you. Where's the wastewater cost? Where does it show up?
So it would show up in multiple areas. So it would show up in salaries and benefits, it would show up in purchase of goods, multiple areas. So the board per se has a breakdown of line items, much like this, and so your expenditures would be.
The other vacancy is called unfunded liability, right? Higher, before that, we couldn't fund for that. We can't have a reserve for that, right? That's what you're talking about here, right?
Yeah, so I too have asked a lot of questions about that, because I know in past years I've heard similar commentary that we couldn't have reserves, but I believe so long as we can demonstrate that they are accrued liabilities for that calendar year, then we can put them aside. I'll let Paul describe exactly how that happens, but as I understand, so long as it's associated to a calendar year, we just can't be putting, if you have a surplus, we just can't put it in a reserve for a rating it. But I'll let Paul.
Yeah, he's pretty much correct on this front. What we would end up doing, reviewing every year, the likelihood of having to pay them, and if we thought the payout was going to happen, then we would potentially set up an accrued liability. So it's not a reserve, it's specific for a particular case. And what that does is it's a known fact that they have assumption that it's going to be paid out in the subsequent year. The auditors will allow us to look at it with liability because it's known back where a certain likelihood. And then what we end up doing is reviewing the amount in that every year to see if it's still reasonable. So if we thought that was too high, for a given year, if we could, and if we need to find some more, we would. So we do that with a lot of different aspects as far as no items that come up. So, what we are referring to as part of reserve is going is exactly what she's already said. If you have extra money in the year, we can't just kind of wait for a day. But if it's a known event or a likely event, then that's a different story.
You do raise an interesting point, sir, and that is that we have had surpluses over the last couple of years. And that money has come back to the city. Technically, as I'm doing it now, we could have approved those years so that we didn't have this. So this, I'll let Mr. John answer. I believe this was back to the city, much like our surpluses go back to the city.
Yes, so with the, in this particular year, you had a deficit. So we have applied for all city departments, and it will basically just become part of the city bottom line. So we're just finalizing our books, but we would look at all the other departments that are out there and then balance. So in certain years, when there was a surplus for the police department, that went back to the city bottom line, essentially help with other departments that are running the deficit this year. Other departments that are running the surplus are on their so that working reserves. Whatever, yes, to the end of the day, whatever surplus or deficit the city has would come in or go over.
One of Glenn's questions, that is the, I don't know. How much of a standard?
When I look at the number of people panels now, I think there are ways of predicting that some of them are likely not. And so what I would recommend is that we put aside and look at what their ranks, what would the accumulation of their ranks have been that calendar year, and then that aside. You know, if I have to refer to Mr. Scrimshaw, if that person ended up coming back, how do we deal with that? I'm not sure. But that's how I would.
So this is with regard to people who are strictly, they don't know whether they're that way, but people who are not strictly, knowledge of what their intentions are.
There's nobody, yeah, there's nobody that is off and just not retiring. They're all related to either sick leave, long-term disability, or WSIP. The ones I would say of greatest risk are those who are off under WSIP because these banks just continue.
Then another question, you said that before the material goes to Mr. Scrimshaw's department, obviously is processed by asset management. Have within the structure. So I'm just wondering how many you have who prepare the work.
I would say we have just a quick estimate, but we probably have to come up. Consider it.
And then there's more questions.
So the
Normally it's to approve it. But this goes on to the next.
Motion to approve. Len, all in favor? Thank you.
So, now that we've talked about 2021, I have some exciting news about 2022. So the province has announced that all service will receive grant funds in the amount of $170,500. And it's relating to the victim support grant. In terms of our use, have done this project circuit breaker. Circuit breaker will create collaborative teams between the Cornwall service and various community partners to provide victims and survivors of human trafficking, partner violence with integrated services. The project will be supported with new technology for police to be able to access and store digital data from encrypted and locked mobile phones and devices. Public and private social media and other data perpetrators. Public service will work with Languages of Life, a nonprofit charitable interpretation and translation service available to help victims and survivors in over at any time of day around the year. The project will also include providing training to officers, public service staff, and partner staff to advance their understanding of Indigenous and LGBT prosecutors.
Thank you. I can say that I'm conscious that Jennifer is trying to do two jobs there, record what we're doing and also be a tech meister. So tell me, do you have somebody you can call, or are you recording our proceedings in the first place? Okay, so no need for there. But do you have somebody you can call? This is a lot to ask you.
Yeah, I'm not sure why all of a sudden the video feed to the monitor has stopped. Yes, I can call.
Yeah, it's not still entirely.
I still got him. He's kind of waving, but you all can't see him. It's just window. So I'll try to get this resolved, Madam Chair.
Unfortunate.
Nope, that's okay. So it's just exciting news and continuing that trend where we have been very successful with our application. Excited to get started on the work.
So do you have somebody who just monitors grant possibilities, or is that up to the asset manager?
I'm like, not that. I'm always looking for grants.
Okay, you're the one.
Yeah, and we have some expertise service that and also some expertise with this was an organization that helps us draft.
So, questions on that? Now, that.
Is this just for 1 year, or do you foresee this, start, once you get going, you don't want to continue?
Typically, the programs that we get grant funds for, I can't think of any program that we just stopped just because grant funds stop. You know, fixing money in the culture and finding ways to stop.
See that? Martha? On favor? Thank you.
Do we need to pause it all for a reason?
Yeah, we did. Oh, Jennifer says no, so let's put it down there. All in favor? Thank you.
This time I'm not going to be able to present the report, although I did coach all of the members of the board.
Okay, so I'm coming to you to report on the Ryan grant that we received from the ministry. So on an annual basis, we submit for grant $60 covers life programming throughout the year for the driving officer. This year, year. The total number of hours worked on ride programs was 120. And these are formalized ride programs. That doesn't mean that we're not conducting informal ride programs with shift workers on basis, but these are more formal. The total cost of $8,250 that is covered by the ministry. In terms of our statistics, it's estimated that we checked 870 vehicles during our programs, at least one PCE. There were 7 approved screening device tests, so roadside screening tests that were administered. On 3 occasions, we gave 3-day license suspension for a first offense. There was one individual who was charged with a liquor license act offense. 2 persons were charged with heavy truck act offenses, and 1 person was charged with another offense, some other statute. So this report will go to the ministry satisfying grant requirements, and it does require signature from the ministry. So the motion receive and submit.
Let's say Mark, second, all in favor? And I hope that we concerned because of our lack of tech next year. This is anyway in our ability to broadcast. In fact, this is a public meeting beyond this room.
No, Madam Chair, and I believe the problem's resolved. Some weird thing got reset on the laptop, but as you can see, we're able to project again.
So I didn't get all that. There's a lot of factors, so are
Could we confirm with media that they have not missed any portion of the meeting? I think that would probably satisfy our issue.
It appears that the media has left the meeting. They're not in the waiting room, they're not in the meeting. We did have 2 members previously, but they're gone. But the feed has been consistent.
No, the media is no longer on, but other members continue to be on. Jennifer is assuring us that the feed is not on, so that perhaps they got the information they were looking for.
right. And as long as we see that obviously we're broadcasting.
To be on the safe side, if you wish, we can check with Bill, but he's been hearing everything since he's still there, and you can see him if I just add him. He's raised his hand, so it appears that he has a comment, Madam Chair. Bill, go ahead.
Good morning, Elaine. I find the picture very bad, not clear, and the audio most certainly not clear at all. When people are speaking, I'm certainly not. It's not clear enough for me to understand what's going on.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I think that if we continue like this, we're certainly going to have to, let's just arrange to have tech expertise in the room at our next meeting. And there's nobody that we can call, for a moment.
I can only make the comment that at a future meeting, instead of staying at home and going on Zoom, I'll do my very best to attend.
I thank you, but it seems to me that we should be able to supply a feed that you can hear from your home. And we'll work on that. We'll definitely have tech expertise involved. And I think present. So,
Well, I've had it clear.
Bill? Did you hear that?
I've had it. I've had it clearer, even when I was in rehab. When I had a private room and it was coming in clearer than it is today.
Okay,
So I've confirmed with Staff Sergeant Archambault, who's also on the call, that he's experiencing the same issue. In particular, your muffled.
really? Well, I will speak much more directly and closer to the mic. Is this better? Can you hear me better, Bill, now? Not
In
necessarily.
conversation with our board chair, I'm sorry, secretary, everything was clear. Everything came in nice and clear.
Okay.
But you seem to be, your picture of the board now and the voice, you seem to be miles away.
Well, okay. Well, we'll do our best. Sean, you have some insight?
Can I offer one more suggestion to see if this makes a difference? If we all turn off our mics except for the speaking, let's see if that makes a difference.
Right. So, Bill, I'm speaking now, but everybody else's mic is off. Is this clearer than it has been?
No,
Okay.
not from my point of view.
Okay, well, we'll continue, and I apologize for the garbled audio that you're receiving, but we'll go on.
It is what it is.
Yes, thanks for your understanding. We're on the 2021 annual, the use of force report, Chief Bauer.
Thank you very much. So this report was also in your package. For those who have been on the board for a while, you will recall that this is a report that comes to you on an annual basis. So I'll just go through it briefly and hopefully answer any questions that may come up as you read it. On the first page, there is an image of support framework that is used in Ontario. This is an aid that's used to train officers. They first come into contact with this, what I would call continuum in police college, and then they continue to review it on an annual basis. To help them understand and identify what the appropriate level of use of force is. To better understand it, we start in the middle of the continuum. Every interaction has a situation, and the officer is required to continue to assess the situation, plan for it, and then act, which is your next around the center. And an officer is going to respond with the level of force that's appropriate given the actions and behavior of the individual they're interacting with. So in that next round there, you can see cooperative, passive resistant, active resistant, assaultive, and serious bodily harm or death. And so as the officer is evaluating the behavior of the individual that they're dealing with, they have their own perception based on who they are as an individual. It could alter because of the individual's size, like the officer's size, their experience in previous situations dealing with behavior, and then tactical considerations. So one officer, the part of the emergency response team, may have more tactical responses available to them than what an officer on the road would have. And the same could be said for tactical active versus an officer who's on the right. And so then they have their response. So the first primary response in any situation is always communication. And then there are the choice of use of force that they choose is specific to what the circumstances represent. So they may need to take physical control, they may need to use intermediate weapons, they may need to use legal force. And so that's a basic outline of this force continuum. Any questions on that? So the requirement for me to provide a report to the board comes from Cornwall Police Services Board Policing Standard Policy 072-05, and we are required as police officers to submit use of force reports as per the Police Services Act, and those reports must be submitted in a number of situations. So if an officer draws a firearm in the presence of a member of the public, a report must be submitted. If an officer destroys an injured animal, then the report will be required. If an officer uses an impact weapon on a person, which would be something along the lines of if an officer displays, points, or deploys a taser, an officer uses aerosol spray on a person, and if a person is injured because of force used by an officer, and the person requires immediate medical attention, requires medical attention. Those are all the circumstances in which the report must be filed. So we're also required to analyze the data on an annual basis to see if there's any trends or identify any concerns or training issues. And here you have a breakdown of the kinds of force that we use. So for 2021, there was a total of 44 use of force reports submitted, as compared to 36 in 2020. So the board has some level of comfort. There are levels of oversight built into our systems. Say when a supervisor receives a use of force report, they will be the first line of oversight to make sure that appropriate use of force was used. And we also utilize our training officer, so all use of force reports go to the training officer. And he would be done regularly, and then we analyze the data at the end of the as well. In 2021, there were no remedial training sessions required and no concerns with respect to these force reports that were submitted. So, one might ask what caused the increase in the number of situations. And as you'll see in the later slides, use of force is up and down. There isn't really a consistent pattern that you can note that on 6 separate occasions, there were multiple use of force reports submitted for multiple officers. So if 3 officers are dealing with an individual, and for instance, they need to deploy their taser, all 3 officers are required to submit a use of force report. So that obviously can quickly cause the numbers to increase. And in 2021, there were 6 occasions where that happened, as compared to 2020, where we only had 2 separate instances where that happened. So in actual fact, 16 use of force reports stemmed from those 6 incidents. One could argue that the actual fact may be smaller. In terms of our use of firearms in 2021, there were 18 incidents where officers drew their firearm and closely had a subject. Obviously, this is something we take very seriously. And on 2 occasions, firearms used to destroy or stress. Since 2017, officers have submitted force reports for drawing and discharging firearms an average of 12 times per year. One of the things we noted when looking at the 2021 data is we did have an increase in the number of search warrant executions, which is a good thing, drug warrants. And the execution of drug warrants often will lead to an elevated level of risk, the emergency response. They so Taser was displayed on 23 occasions in 2021. In 20 incidents, the taser was actually deployed. Since 2017, the taser has been used an average of 27 times. We only use aerosol spray on one occasion. It's actually a force option that is very rarely used, as you can see by the statistics from 2017 on. This is the first one. In terms of the use of the expandable baton, it was not used at all in 2021. And even again, techniques were used in only one occurrence in 2021. There were no injuries that resulted from our use of force, which is a very positive trend that we would like to continue. And there were occasions where an individual had been taken to hospital to have the taser darts removed, but that is not considered. I think that the most relevant data from my perspective is the next graph, and that is looking at the average and the percentage of times that we're using force in comparison to the total number of incidents. And by incidents, I mean arrests. So in 2021, we only used force in 1.6% of all arrests. And to me, that is a remarkable speaks volumes to the fact that our officers are using that tactical communication as a first look of, as you will, doing the best to de-escalate situations in order to prevent the use of force. And the other thing that this tells us is that despite the fact that we see that we used force 44 times this year in comparison to a lower number in 2020, in actual fact, the percentage is actually a bit lower. I mentioned that there were no situations where necessary training concerns identified as a result of use of force. And the other very interesting category, of course, is we are now collecting race-related data, and that started effective January 1st, 2020, and there's a requirement under the Anti-Racism Act to do so. And we have identified that in 79% of the cases where use of force is used, the individual is perceived to be white. So 3 situations involved an individual who was black, and 4 situations involved a person and 1 Hispanic. This is data that, as we continue to accumulate this these statistics, I think it's going to start beginning to tell a story. We're just but the data, so there's there's not much at this point.
Are there any questions? Mike?
Is there a difference between drawing your weapon and actually firing it? Like, when you say drawing it, they just show it, they didn't actually use it.
That's right.
But if they actually shot, the bullet came out, is that a separate report?
Yeah, that would show up here differently. So the only two actual deployment elements, I guess, of the firearm were to destroy him. Nobody actually fired the firearm, just destroyed it.
I noticed you said that a person had to go to the hospital to have a taser dart removed. I had no idea that tasers actually projected darts. I thought they just sent an electric charge.
No, there's actually wires that come out at the end of the taser, and they have little metal darts that actually go into your skin. That's what causes the electric current to carry through.
Okay.
And that's why a taser isn't always effective. And living in the climate we live in, people wear big, heavy, puffy jackets, and so the taser in those situations may not be reasonable. Yeah, well, it may not be a reasonable use of force option for an officer to go to because they realize that if they were to deploy it, it would be ineffective.
Right, Boston Parker. Okay. Now, a motion to receive that report. Martha, all in favor? Thank you. And
Madam Chair.
to the suspect apprehension.
Madam Chair, before we move on, may I take a moment to check whether the sound has improved for our online participants? Bill or Staff Sergeant Archambault, are you noticing any improvement?
Staff Sergeant Archambault may have left and returned. He was going to come down here.
Bill, I think you're on mute, so if you unmute yourself, we may be able to hear you.
There's nothing wrong, the sound is loud, but not clear.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Sorry about that, Madam Chair, thank you.
So now, did our tech expert here have to talk about IT upstairs or? Okay. Wow, you're not even in the IT department. We'll keep you informed of our meeting dates. Thanks. Suspect apprehension report?
Thank you again. So as per Directive FOB 52 of Cornwall Service Policies, I'm providing you a summary of the suspect apprehension pursuits that would have taken place by members of our service through 2021. Officers are required to complete fail to stop reports anytime an individual in a motor vehicle fails to stop for them and they pursue. A suspect apprehension pursuit occurs when an officer refuses to obey the driver refuses to obey the officer. A police officer attempts to direct the driver of a motor vehicle to stop, and the police officer pursues in a motor vehicle for the purposes of stopping the fleeing motor vehicle or identifying that motor vehicle or an individual in the motor vehicle. Pursuits of motor vehicles are considered an officer's last resort. And officers must consider the following when assessing whether to initiate a suspect apprehension pursuit and alternative methods or tactics. So A, there is a reason to believe that a criminal offense has been committed or is about to be committed, or to identify the motor vehicle or an individual in the motor vehicle. There are no alternatives available set out in alternative methods or tactics. And in order to protect public safety, the immediate need to apprehend an individual in a fleeing motor vehicle or the need to identify that motor vehicle or an individual in the motor vehicle outweighs the risk to public safety that may result from the suspect having been pursued. And that really is the key right there. And it's the reason why a number of years ago we started to see a significant reduction in the number of pursuits. Police officers are quite in tune now to the fact that they have to consider all of these factors before initiating pursuit of a vehicle. I'll just mention this because it's a hot topic. You know, it's one of the reasons why it's difficult to address concerns with ATVs, because it's very easy, obviously, for an ATV just, if an officer tries to stop them, just to take off, and an officer has to consider the risks associated to pursuing that altering motor vehicle. And as you can appreciate, somebody on an ATV there is a risk to safety at high speeds. So it's one of the difficulties that police have in dealing with complaints of ATVs. So in terms of failed to stop reports, as you can see, there were 15 pursuits in total. There was one accident associated to that pursuit. There were 4 individuals arrested as a result of these pursuits. 48 charges were laid in these pursuits. 12 pursuits were terminated, and there were no injuries.
12 out of the 15, or in addition to, that were terminated?
12 of the 15 were terminated.
Yes, that means before they have to be called out.
No, sometimes you'll turn on your lights and you will begin to pursue, and then you have to decide that the risk to the public safety, for instance, outweighs the need to pursue, and you terminate the pursuit. Also, identifying either the license plate or the driver, the officer may pursue and then realize that there's no need to continue the pursuit because they've identified.
Yeah, very good.
A total of 15 fails to stop reports were submitted in 2021, which is less than in 2020. All 15 reports were compliant with no incidents required remedial training. And in terms of the accident, it involved a suspect vehicle that had struck a police cruiser while trying to free his vehicle from a snowbank. The incident did not result in any personal injuries. The number of charges has slightly decreased, 48 as compared to 2020, where there was 56. But as you can see, from the 5-year data, I don't see anything unusual about the charges. And in terms of charge types, 77% of the charges were related to criminal code offenses. 10% related to the Highway Traffic Act, and 13 related to the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. There were 4 arrests in 2021 in comparison to 6 arrests in 2020, but as you can see from the 5-year data, there's nothing really unusual about that. And as mentioned previously, 12 were terminated. In conclusion, it appears as though the training that's being received by our officers at the Ontario Police College is doing exactly what it is intended to do, which is cause officers to really reflect on why they might need to pursue and terminate where appropriate. And so it can be said for the renewal training that we do on an annual basis. So we're pleased to see that our officers are compliant with our policies.
Sure. Very good. Are there questions or please comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve this report. Receive it, Mike. Glenn, all in favor? Thank you. And our next item is the taxi bylaw request to increase fares, and I see my name beside it, but I'm happy to see Staff Sergeant Robert Archambault has joined us. So perhaps Staff Sergeant, you speak to this?
I can open it up for him. I just wanted to bring the board's attention to an additional letter that has been received since the package went out. We've now received a letter from Tip Top Veterans Taxi as well, and the previous letter, of course, was from Choice. I do want to draw your attention to the fact that there are slight differences within the requests. Where one company is asking that the increase go from $3.50 to $3.90, another company is asking for it to go from $3.50 to $4. And when I say the rate, I'm talking about the starting meter rate. And one of the companies has asked for an increase in the waiting time fee from $32.30 to $40, whereas the other company has not included that in their request. So what we've done already is undertaken some research to determine what the normative fees are in other jurisdictions, in particular other jurisdictions our size, and our intention is to provide a report to the board in May with recommendations so that the board can make their final decisions. But I have asked Staff Sergeant Archambault to join us in case there are questions about the actual tax bylaw. He will be our subject matter expert in that regard.
Well, I have a couple of questions. So we have two separate letters. Do they negotiate with us as one body or two separate organizations?
The way the bylaws are currently drafted, the bylaw states that all taxis in the city of Cornwall charge the same rate. So this will present a bit of perhaps a negotiation between the companies. I had assumed that perhaps the companies may have spoken to each other before submitting, but I don't think that's the case.
I'd also note that Staff Sergeant Archambault informed me that other jurisdictions don't necessarily, their bylaw is not written in that way. So in other jurisdictions, the bylaw actually allows different companies to charge different amounts. So that may also be part of what the board wants to consider, whether they want to continue with it or
Do we typically make any requests of the taxi companies, like for example, that they may say one vehicle is capable of accommodating somebody who needs to remain in a wheelchair at all times, like a drive-on thing, or do we count on Cornwall Transit to handle those types of calls?
So whenever it comes, we have in bylaw stipulations that they will transport individuals who are in wheelchairs, for example. They will transport and they will make the arrangements to get the share into the car, not charging for the baggage the aspect. They do not have any special vehicles such as vans and trucks or anything like that. And there's nothing in the bylaw that stipulates that they must.
Okay. So Glenn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. John, do you have any recommendations to bring back to the board? Because the bylaw, we approve it here, then pass it on to City Council. So do you have any recommendations, any proposed changes?
not to the bylaw itself. At this stage, I don't see any need to change it. I just wanted to bring the information forward that other jurisdictions do allow for different rules. But I think from a company standpoint, it would be good to have our companies consistent across the board.
Madam Chair, it appears that Bill may have a question or comment.
Very good. Bill?
Madam Chair, the audio is getting better. I don't know what's happening there, and it's much clearer.
Good. Well, But we did have somebody in who assisted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, I'm sure.
I don't know whether there needs to be a motion directing the chief of police to bring back a report for me.
Well, we could do that. I'd just like to notice that both you and maybe too, Robert, as well, I'd love to be part of the discussion of the situation before we bring it back to the police board and then over to the council. The history of that sort of thing. So is there a motion then to bring back
For the chief to prepare a report to the board with recommendations.
Martha, go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask a question? What is the report exactly? I didn't read the 39-page bylaw. I apologize. So, what are we?
So the board is required to set the fee structure.
Oh, it's okay. So from the documentation that you gave us this morning is what we're.
So there were two letters received from the two different tax companies. So what we would be doing is conducting research in other jurisdictions to determine what's the appropriate fee. And then we would bring forward recommendations to the board, because ultimately it's the board's decision to set the fee structure.
Thank you. Martha, do you want to make a motion that happened, that we bring back, that you bring back the report?
Is that necessary that you have to go through that process of having? I just think of the work that would be involved in having to go out and do that research and with other municipalities and see for other jurisdictions to see what their fares are compared to like what's in front of us.
So first of all, you have a discrepancy between the two companies making different requests. So,
Okay.
You may want to see what other jurisdictions are doing. Plus, I mean, the cost of living has changed, and what is the right fee anymore?
Right.
I think, as I understand it, there hasn't been a fee change since 2013. So I don't know that the board would feel comfortable knowing what the right fee should be.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So then, Martha, are you going to move that we have that part? Thank you. And seconded by Mike. All in favor? Thank you. And moving on to the Senior Officers Association Bargaining Committee update. And the negotiating team, which consists of Howard, myself, and Mike Thea, met after our last board meeting, and we discussed the positions that we would like to assume in various matters. And then we met with Rick Baldwin, our lawyer, who's preparing the documentation for us. And we replied to the senior officers that we would like, we proposed the date of May 10th for our first meeting with, at the all-day meeting. And I think we're going to do it at City Hall, where we'll have separate rooms or be here. Okay, it'll be here with breakout rooms for both parties. And then we hope to come back on June 2nd and wrap things up, and if not, we'll continue on June 3rd. And we hope that that will bring a successful conclusion. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to board governance and review of board policies. Oh my gosh, Chief Power, I see the pile of binders there.
So since taking on the role in November, I've been reflecting on the state or status of the board's bylaws and policies. And then as I was considering bringing forward the issue to talk about perhaps conducting a review, all of the issues occurred in Ottawa, which I think have shone a light on police board governance. I've had some discussions also with Mayor Grant, who has expressed concerns about some of the procedures provincially. I think Mayor Grant has participated in a a couple of conferences that have shed some light for him on the issue of board governance, so, and I'll let him speak to those. But what I wanted to bring forward today was a recommendation that the board consider putting together a policy review committee. And together, of course, I'll participate in that. Together, we bring these policies and bylaws up to a more modern state, and also consider making them electronic and available to members of the public. At present, this appears to be the board bylaws and policies. I found these in the board's filing cabinet. So my first initial review of them suggests that there is some work to be done.
Very good. So, I would personally like to serve on that review committee, so Chair can propose, so somebody proposed that we in fact do strike the committee, we'll strike the chair. Then proposed and seconded by Martha. And volunteers, in addition to myself, then, very good. Mike, you're nodding your head, does that mean you?
No,
Then I and Shauna. Shauna, you were drafted. Very good. Okay, very good. So, moving on then to noise pollution. Do we need a motion just to, for that committee? A motion then? Glenn, Mike, all in favor? And Mike, if you guys take over the meeting, I'll be back in a minute.
Glenn, for the noise pollution, or more curious.
Why don't we, wait for Chair John to come back only because I think they're going to be part of this discussion.
Okay.
Right. Not that I don't have faith in you.
Bill, I have a handout, but I didn't realize you weren't going to be here, so I'll drop one off at your home on this next topic.
Glad to talk to you, Glenn.
Say that again?
I said I'd be very happy to speak to you,
Oh, good, okay.
have a conversation.
Maybe I'll take advantage of the opportunity to address a housekeeping issue. I know there was some confusion about the scheduling of this meeting. So I just wanted to let you all know the links that we use for these meetings, it's always the same link. We have a Zoom account in every meeting. It's kind of like the same virtual room. So what I've done is established a series of recurring meetings. If ever you can't find the link, it's always the same link. You can always use the same one. And it's also on our public website. I don't know what happened because what I tried to do is add the materials to each meeting. Somehow a duplicate got created, and then I wasn't sure whether to cancel the duplicate or leave two, because I didn't know which would be less confusing. I chose what I thought was the lesser of two evils. I may not have made the right choice. In any case, to avoid future confusion, It's always the same link, even for bargaining, for everything. And the room is secure. So when I open it, I'm the host. Nobody gets in without me letting them in. So you don't have to worry that it'll be crashed secretly by an unauthorized person. If there are any questions, if ever you have difficulty, please don't hesitate to send me a text or an email or call me.
Thank you for that, Senator. Moving on, noise, Glenn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I received, in January, a request to your package here regarding a bylaw regarding noise, and especially about vehicles that have these new mufflers, etc. And so I talked to our chief zoning official, Charles Bray, and he said that that's part of the Highway Traffic Act, and that perhaps I should go through the police board first and just see. This is related to, if you ever had to sit out, I recognized this about 2 years ago. I was sitting outside Bentsy's and on the patio, and couldn't carry on the conversation. The number of vehicles go by with this high decibel level mufflers now is unbelievable. And I thought it was irritating at that time, but there's enough resistance to these mufflers that I proposed to bring a bylaw to council through somebody to talk about this. But there's extra cost with if we did pass that bylaw, there's costs associated with the police board, and they're asking the provincial government, part of this bylaw, to pay those costs to reduce, to get rid of these mufflers, etc. So I'm bringing it to the police board because they part of the Highway Traffic Act, and I'd like to either get your approval to go forward with this to the city council.
So, go ahead, Chief.
I did ask the deputy conduct a little bit of research to add some statistical context to the conversation. So he has that information available if you'd like.
Very good, Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In response to your request, Your Worship, I conducted some research on historical occurrences in the city in the past, since 2020, regarding noise complaints in the city pertaining to vehicles. What I can say, and I'll go over the statistics. In 2020, we had a total of 27 complaints. 12 were deemed as solved, and 15 were deemed as unsolved. In 2021, we had 29 complaints throughout the year. 10 were deemed as solved, 19 were deemed as unsolved, and we don't have any statistics for this year yet in this regard. They haven't been compiled yet. In terms of charges under the Highway Traffic Act, can either be proactively done by the officers or as a result of a complaint. There are 4 applicable offenses under the Highway Traffic Act, all under Section 75. They can pertain to improper muffler, having no muffler, unnecessary noise, or unnecessary noise due to a signaling device, such as a horn. The statistics in 2020 is there were 13 provincial offenses tickets issued and 2 warning tickets issued. That's for a total of 15. In 2021, there were 4 provincial offenses tickets issued and 9 warning tickets for a total of 13. Year to date in 2022, there's been 1 warning issued thus far this year pertaining to unnecessary noise. I speculate the number is low because we haven't hit the summer period yet. But those are the statistics. So we get about 2 to 3 complaints per month regarding noise complaints pertaining to vehicles, and approximately 15 tickets average since 2020 pertaining to this issue. In terms of, we have no noise, it's all, we have no noise, or a decibel meter to detect, the noise level. It's all at the officer's discretion. And the totality of the circumstances regarding the event, and in relation to the highway traffic. So those are the statistics for the city.
So when there are complaints, how do you ticket someone if you can't measure decibel level?
Officer discretion, like I just said, it's based on the totality of the circumstances, witness accounts, officers' accounts of the event, visual observation of a vehicle or a motorcycle, for example. But it's not based on science, it's based on evidence.
Okay, I just want to get your impression about if we did, this bylaw was passed and pushed on to the provincial government, and they took up the cost of these meters. Are you in favor of this? That's, I need to hear from your expertise on this.
What I can tell you, Your Worship, is we have the enforcement tools as currently to deal under the Highway Traffic Act. I've consulted with the traffic section. I can certainly be in favor if there was a cost recovery mechanism. But in terms of this issue, I don't have a specific recommendation because I do feel we have an effective enforcement tool.
Okay, so if they were paid for, you wouldn't have a problem with it then, in the tool. I don't know, I get complaints, I don't know if the rest of the city council does, but I get complaints from neighbors regarding these mufflers and buffering devices, or supposed to be buffering devices that aren't buffering devices at all.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, Your Worship, and we can certainly work. I don't want to speak for the chief, but we can certainly work with it if there was changes to the regulations and the laws in the province. We can certainly work with that.
Okay, I personally don't think we need a motion on this, but just that for information purposes, so it still has to go to city council and they have to get either approve it or not.
I'd like to ask a question if I may. Now, are you suggesting that people are actually somehow boosting their muffler noise or disabling their mufflers so as to be noisier?
Right. That's what's happening.
So can't that simply in itself be an infraction? And maybe that is why people get ticketed now.
Like I say, it's the totality of the circumstances. The officers, if the mufflers are removed or they've been modified to create more noise, we can certainly take it under the Highway Traffic Act.
So my impulse is to think that we've already got the tools we need.
This is challenged, so if you don't have a measuring device, you can't, I don't know how you charge them.
And Your Worship, I'll may say again also, we get 2 to 3 complaints a month on this. Average over the last couple of years on noise. Perhaps the problem is bigger, but the complaints are about 2 to 3 per month.
And it must be pretty easy to determine that people have manipulated their muffler in some way. Or I suppose.
Well, if you're trained on it, with I'm certainly not trained. I haven't done traffic in several years. But yeah, for certain officers who are trained, it should be pretty easy.
I have one other comment. The only concern I have with a sound measuring device, and I don't know much about decibels and what's not and what's not, so excuse me for that, but my concern is when you're driving down Pitt Street, you're sitting on one of those patios and you've got buildings on either side of you. The noise that comes and echoes in a small area like that may sound much louder than what it does on Water Street. So my only concern is if we move to a system where it's solely based on decibels, does it take away the discretion of the officer who can now say, given the area, the time of day, this is unreasonable noise versus an instrument that makes that determination. So that would be my only point of concern.
My point of concern would be if we put a bylaw on the books, then it's up to our bylaw officers in the first place. And I think they pretty well work on foot, I'm not sure. But, and when they can't do the job, then they call on the Cornwall police. And it just strikes me as we have a law in place now, and the police officers seem to be able to be laying charges without being contested, so I'm in favor of letting the status quo be, but if this comes to council, I look forward to the discussion, and I'll learn more about how we can.
Yeah, this is a request from another municipality, and so that's why I pushed it forward. Plus, I hear these vehicles on a regular basis as well, so.
You gotta call the police when you hear them then.
To
up the statistics there.
The other issue, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, when it comes back, we'll let you speak to it, no matter what item we're on the status. So that was basically an information item for us. You're going to bring this up to council.
Right, I just wanted to hear the discussion from, because it has to do with the Highway Traffic Act, to get the input from Shauna and the chief.
I've got it. The other concern I had when I looked at the cost recovery is that, the province will often pay for the devices originally, but then there's no cost recovery mechanism after that. It comes up from etc. So it sounds like cost recovery, but it's short-lived. And you would have to put these in almost every car too.
So is the communication from that other municipality that we adopt, they're encouraging us to adopt that program, can be covered by the province?
Right. Yeah, there's an exception.
Okay. That might resolve it right there. Bill has something. So thanks for bringing that forward, Bill. Go ahead.
There's no question in my mind that there are young, not just young people, but quite a few people that are changing their mufflers, and they're very loud. So my question through you, Madam Chair, is to either to the chief or the deputy chief. If we got their license number and the description of the vehicle and the time that we are complaining about, what do they do? Do they check through the license and check the vehicle?
So would you like to respond to that? Which one? Your deputy chief, maybe?
So if I heard your question correctly, is if we get a complaint of a modified muffler, perhaps an investigation could be initiated and enforcement action could be taken if it's modified, if it doesn't comply with the Highway Traffic Act. Is that your question?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that.
So if a muffler has been modified, is your question pertaining to that?
I certainly don't understand what you're trying to say, but let me put it to you this way. On Montreal Road, and I noticed up on 2nd Street, a smaller car, and they just change gears. Usually they have a manual transmission, I believe, and they just rip the noise. Once they change gears, look out. And there's no question, certainly where I live on the corner of Jarvis and Montreal Road, we see lots of them going by here.
So if there's excessive noise in a particular area pertaining to certain vehicles, I would welcome a complaint being lodged, and it could be followed up by our traffic section or our patrol section when they have time to do proactive enforcement. We can come up with a plan for that.
I think there's also a difference between, a complaint that there was a vehicle and you're not identifying the vehicle that just drove by on Montreal Road. Obviously, the officers, if we have officers available at that particular time, we're gonna look around the area and look for that vehicle matching that description to determine whether there's unnecessary noise. That's a little different than making a complaint, which is, I think, what Mr. Reed is trying to say, where you have a particular vehicle, you know the identity of that vehicle, and you're making a complaint that they modified their muffler. That is an investigation that can absolutely be undertaken by the Cornwall Police Service, and yes, we would, do follow up, we would check the driver and make those determinations.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. I think we'll be hearing a lot more about this in the future. So moving on to the OAPSB Spring Conference and AGM. Secretary Keys.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I had received some emails that I believe I forwarded to everybody here about the upcoming conference, which is in person, but also there's a virtual option. And so I think that got one person that indicated an interest. I didn't get a response from anybody else, so my purpose in bringing these two items forward was first and foremost to ensure that you're getting these invitations.
Yes, well, I certainly want to attend. Did you get a response from me?
No, I didn't.
Well, take it now.
Perfect.
I respond. I need to attend. And maybe she can clarify, do I make my own arrangements or does the secretary make the arrangements?
Typically, I believe the secretary will make those arrangements for you, but
Okay, that suits me fine. I'll discuss my travel arrangements with you prior to locking it in, but you can book me for the conference as soon as you can, please. Thank you. And does anybody else wish to do that?
Haven't decided yet.
Okay.
We have till April 28th.
Perhaps you could use your chance here.
I think we have till April 28th to book our time, so I haven't quite decided yet.
Len?
I'm not coming back from Ireland today.
Thank you. Okay, moving on then, another one for you, Secretary Keys.
Yeah, along the same lines, I didn't get any responses to this one. So this was a conference. Again, there's an online option, or someone gets to travel to beautiful Victoria, BC. But it's about the changing face of civilian oversight. So that seems like something that would be relevant to the board. So again, it was to gauge interest, ask if there are any participants. And then, again, I wanted to sort of clarify whether the board wants to make a strategic decision about who and how many attendees, and what my role looks like in terms of facilitating that.
Are there any comments? I'll certainly review it as far as committing to the conference. We don't know yet.
So forgive me, I don't have a cutoff date, but this one actually is May 16th, so it takes place earlier than the OAPSB. And so probably a decision would need to be made sooner than later.
So usually then we're comfortable with looking at it and thinking about it and getting back to us. Thank you. And the last item, Chief Sparrow Bikes and Badges letter of request.
thank you. I'm very, very excited to inform you that our annual Bikes and Badges program is moving ahead. Post-pandemic, we haven't been able to run this program since pandemic started, so it's very exciting. This is a program that was initiated a number of years ago it's sort of a grassroots idea that came from one of our police officers, to set aside a day where we invite children, we set up obstacle courses for them and teach them, the police officers teach them bicycle safety in a really fun and interactive environment. And for participating, we, through these funds, we provide them with bike helmets, which for many marginalized families is a cost that they just can't incur. And this year, I'm quite excited that they've added in, when they're looking, if they get the funds, to add in bike clocks for these children. So I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to see a recent social media post where a young person had his bike stolen, comes from a family who cannot afford to replace that bike, and through donations, our crime reduction community partnerships unit was able to purchase him a new bike and lighten his day after it was so sadly stolen. So, providing these families with bike locks is, crime prevention 101. Every lock in there is potential of reducing a bike from being stolen. So I'm quite excited about that addition. The program has grown since its inception. They had 50 children the first year, and it's grown by 20% each year. Last time they held it, they had 100 total children. And they also had Zumba, the lady who does Zumba come out, and the kids were all doing Zumba. So the request to the board is that, as you know, you have your auction account where when the bike auction takes place, those funds go into a board account revenue that can be used for the board's discretion. And in past years, the board has chosen to use it to donate to certain groups or events or causes. And in past years, the board has in fact supported this program with a donation of $500, which has been matched typically by the Cornwall Police Association, and the Cornwall Police Service helps to offset the remaining costs. This is a partnership with the Optimist Club, Total Cyclery, and Cornwall City Transit. They actually bring a bus down to teach kids how to, and families how to put the bikes on the front of the bus, which I think is great advertising for Cornwall Transit as well. As you can appreciate, this community engagement is one of the key pillars in our strategic plan, and this event aligns with our strategic priorities to modernize youth engagement strategies and increase visibility and presence in the community. So I come forward with the ask on your behalf.
Mike,
I'll move to support the $500.
and then second. And I'd like to add that at least more than 500, given that we might have a backlog of kids out there who we haven't done this for a couple of years, that we don't necessarily put a cap on this. We should all the other organizations.
We could say a minimum $500.
I like that. Yeah, wonderful.
They will be very excited to get that. I'm sure
Very good.
be very responsible for us.
All in favor?
Off. Your mic appears to be off.
I'd like to have a motion to adjourn, please. Len, Martha, all in favor? Thank you.